evening, everyone. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the October 29th regular meeting of the Trumbull Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're going to begin with recognitions. We actually have two tonight. The first one is the First Selectman's Golf Classic presentation, the Honorable Vicky Tesoro and your committee. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. This way so I can face all of you, if you don't mind.
Yes, but you will not be on TV.
Well, that's good.
Okay. Well, your back will be on TV.
I say enough of that. So, good evening, everybody. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here this evening with all of you to celebrate this wonderful event that we have annually, as you all know. And so to start the proceedings here, Kath, why don't you hold up that big check?
For the TV.
$66,500. So that's a big number and one that we're going to share tonight. But before we do that, a few thank yous that I'd like to say. Number one is to Kathy McGannon, because Kathy McGannon is really the planner. She runs this whole event, and she's the reason why she's holding that check for $66,500. So give her a round of applause. To the 501c3 organization, the First Selectman's Golf Tournament Committee, I say thank you as well. And I know I saw John Ponzio and Lucinda that's here, and we have a few other members that are not with us tonight. Rosemary and Sean Carroll. So thank you to them, because certainly this, as you can imagine, takes a lot of people to run an event like this. So I thank them. This tournament has provided more than $400,000 in support over the 8 years that the tournament has run. And I say thank you to former First Selectman Timothy Herbst, because he developed this tournament. So I do say a thank you to him, and thank you that we've been able to continue this great tournament for supporting all of our teams, academic and athletic teams at the high school, and the ACE Foundation, which supports many other teams in the middle school and the elementary schools as well. So I also want to thank the parents who attended meetings, solicited donations for the raffle, found foursomes and sponsors, came early to set up, put out T signs, filled coolers, all the things that needed to be done for a smooth tournament with 130 golfers. We actually, I think, had to turn away some golfers this year, did we not? So that's a great thing, because that just shows the popularity and how people want to contribute to this great cause. Of course, I also thank the students who came bright and early to set up the raffle, carry the golfers' bags from the parking lot to the carts. 8 a.m. on one of the last days of summer is never easy. So any of our students here, you want to wave your hands that came out? Thank you. And how about our parents, too? Why don't you stand up, parents that helped us out, please, because thank you. Again, a team effort to make something like this work. So, Tashua Knowles, to Bobby Brown and Dominic Faustini for a wonderful tournament and an excellent dinner. Anyone who had dinner that night, it was great. We had great fun as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to present some checks. So I will call your organization, and the representative just should come up and collect your money. from the ACE Foundation. So in,
Yes.
well, we got somebody should. Anybody got a camera?
Come on, somebody's got a picture. Let's go, Jim. Oh, Kim's got us. All right. All right.
Descending height. Wow, somebody shorter than me. Amazing.
How are you? Good to see you.
Yep.
Stand here too? All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So each one of these envelopes has a check for $9,500. So the next is the Trumbull High School Golden Eagle Marching Band. Come on. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trumbull High School Power Play, boys and girls hockey. Oh, no, these people getting taller and taller. I don't know.
I don't want to get hit by this guy.
Great. Thank you,
so
guys.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Trumbull High School lacrosse, boys and girls.
It's gonna be a big picture.
Thank you. Go ahead, James.
I'm short.
Tip your toes.
It's good to be short sometimes. Great. Trumbull High School Diamond Club, boys baseball and girls softball.
This is my president of my student council.
Oh my goodness, really?
Back when?
1992.
1992.
That's what I like, just my head. Perfect.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Done.
Trumbull High School boys basketball. I don't know, that's what she said on there. Is that not true?
You have to get on this side.
Get on that side? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Actually, right.
Girls don't have it. No, no 5-0, no felons. I'm not supposed to hold it up. Hold it up.
That's what you can do. Get in there. Good job.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
How much? I was like that. I was like, I was halfway through. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. Very tall people. And the Trumbull High School Touchdown Club. this. Yes, it's a, as I said, it's a team effort to do this.
There you go.
Whoa.
That's really tough.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thighs are burning.
Are we good? Okay.
We need you guys?
Something didn't work. Right, so,
Repeat.
thank you.
Very important.
I just count the
All right, that's better.
I just count the money.
Thank God somebody counts the money. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
That's it. So, thank you again to everyone, and we hope that we will have a repeat performance next year. August, do we have a date? Oh, hold on. Sorry. Drum roll. Oh, jeez, I forget, it's my birthday. August 17th, 2020. So we hope to see most of you back here. I know there's probably some seniors who will be leaving for college. So, but otherwise, see you next year. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, again, for all the hard work from the staff, from the parents, from the students, and for everyone who participated. This helps make a nice dent in the amount of money that these students have to raise for their activities, and the board certainly appreciates it. Thank you. Pardon? Okay. So we're going to move on to our next recognition, which is the Trumbull High School Girls Cross Country Team. Mr. McCaffrey and Mr. King.
If I could just preface this by mentioning that the Trimble High girls cross-country team traveled to Orlando, and they competed there in the 23rd Disney Cross-Country Classic at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. I heard them out in the hall. They sounded like they were still on the roller coaster from this high. So thank you so much for the turnout and for coming tonight.
Do you guys?
Thanks for having us tonight, and thank you for recognizing this special group of girls. This group has not just accomplished a lot this year, but has been one of our up and rising teams for a long time. They finished second this year in the FCIAC championships a week and a half ago, and this past weekend finished second in the state Double L championship, finishing with the third best team time out of 115 teams. And Friday we'll be competing for a state open championship, so we wish them the best of luck. So if they could just come up and
Say hello. So I'll ask the member, do you want to introduce yourselves and just tell us your name and what
Sure.
what
As
year
they
you
come up
are?
and introduce themselves, the one thing I just want to note about this group is when we went down to Orlando, we knew we wanted to try to do some good while we were there. We spent the entire afternoon on our first day there, got right off the plane, and went to a place called Give Kids the World Village. It's the village where many Make-A-Wish families go, many from Make-A-Wish, Connecticut. We actually met a few families from Make-A-Wish, Connecticut while we were there. The girls got to tour the facility, learn about the philanthropic message of Give Kids the World, and then they got to serve dinner from about 5 o'clock to 9:30. So They washed the dishes, they served the food, they cleaned up the cafeteria. We had a pretty rabid bussing team as well who bussed all the tables. It was a great experience for all of them, and something that made me very proud as their coach to watch them give back. So these girls are really special. So here they are.
Yeah, just your name and if you want to tell us what position you play and what year you are.
I'm Brenna Sorrow. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's cross country.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What sport?
Just say you're great.
Never mind.
I'm Brenna Sorrow and I'm a junior.
Country. I'm thinking soccer. Sorry about that.
I'm Juliana Zaccanino, and I'm a senior. I'm Rebecca Margolnik, and I'm also a senior.
Okay.
I'm Ashley Veloso, and I'm a junior. I'm Lauren Fox, and I'm a senior.
I'm Evelyn Martian, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Allie Zafina, and I'm a senior.
I'm Emily Alexandra, and I'm a senior.
I'm Abigail Clark, and I'm a sophomore. I'm Sabrina Orazetti, and I'm a senior.
I'm Megan Becker, and I'm a senior.
I'm Callie Holden, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Ariana Gentile, I'm a senior.
I'm Callan Carbone, I'm a junior.
I'm Carolyn Cardell, and I'm a senior.
So thank you for having us here tonight.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to public comment. Are there any sign-ups this evening? Okay. Yep. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, did you want to go to the, I know.
Thank you. Okay, our first speaker is John Mastriani, who is the TEA president. Hi, John.
Oh, this is so much less stressful now with them all gone. I want to start off by saying good luck to the Board of Ed on your upcoming election, and good luck to our candidate in the audience. Good luck, and I look forward to having a productive working relationship with whoever wins this thing. I also want to encourage you guys to complete the surveys that I sent you. I got some of them back already. I'm going through your answers now, and I plan on making them public, to our TA members over the weekend. If you have any problems, let me know, and I'll call my own personal tech integrator with the link to help us out. Reason why I'm up here. I normally sit in the back, by myself, just kind of taking notes on the whole entire day. And one of the underlying things that I've noticed the past couple of months is that there seems to be an uptick in teacher resignations in town. I went through the old Board of Ed minutes, and there were 17 from April to September of 2019. I went back to the old Board of Ed minutes, and there were 9 in 2018 and 7 in 2017. These are not counting any retirements from golden handshakes or anything else. These are solely resignations. The reason why I'm here is I want to make sure this is an anomaly for the year and not the new norm in Trumbull that I've taught in my whole career. I want to ask the board to consider our CEA Blitz opportunity. What is the Blitz? It's funny you should ask because it's actually a very popular thing in most districts. Virtually, it's a school climate survey. The TA, working in conjunction with the CEA, will interview every teacher in the district. We will talk about what they enjoy about Trumbull, what they don't like about Trumbull, and where we think we can make Trumbull a better place to work than it already is. The end product is data. There's no more guessing involved after we complete this process. It would be a school climate data survey, and we can use this survey to help the search committee for the new superintendent generate questions for the process and find candidates to address those most pressing needs. More so, it's going to finally provide the real gauge of where the morale stands in the district. Basically, when you ask teachers now, pending on what school you're in, pending what day it is, they hear wonderful to awful. Let's stop guessing and find out where we really stand as a district. Most important, it's free. We have the TA has the grant funds to cover the need for subs so your teachers can go out and talk to other teachers. So virtually you're getting a school climate survey given to you with realistic data for free. There are a lot of changes occurring in Trumbull. We have an election, we have new leadership, and I strongly urge you to take advantage of this opportunity. We will eliminate all the guesswork and find out where we stand as a district. More so, what has to get done to move our district forward to even a better place than it is now. If you have any questions, please contact me. You have my information. I know we can't discuss it now publicly, but thank you, and please reach out with questions. I'm more than willing to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Ruth Fontilla, who is our PTSA president.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm Ruth Fontilla, as you said, I am the PTSA Council President, and I just wanted to say how much I loved having all of the high schoolers here from all of the different sports organizations. And 2 weeks ago when we had the singers from the choir, it's so wonderful, and I love to be a part of it. So thank you for making sure that this is part of the agenda for each night. We get to see some awards. And I also want to ask that, knowing that there's going to be an election next week, but that in 2 weeks there's going to be another board meeting, and I'm hopeful that no matter how things shake up with the election, that you'll be able to announce the plan going forward for the search committee. How is it that parents and students and teachers and administrators and others in the community, how are they going to be involved in the search committee process, and where can we partner to make sure that we do have the best candidates coming forward for Trumbull superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board chair first, and I'll comment first because I do have an update on the superintendent search committee. The board did just meet, and we have decided to contact 2 of the consultants who submitted proposals to us to come in and meet with us. Both of them offer an option to do both regional as well as national searches. So once we take it to the next step, we will keep you apprised of it, and things are moving forward. Okay. With regard to what we've been doing, and it was a busy 10 days. October 18th was the rock dedication at Trumbull High School soccer field in memory of Coach Gangemi. On the 20th, the Great Pumpkin Classic that supports Trumbull High School scholarships. On the 21st, I attended my first K Board of Directors meeting in Wethersfield. On October 21, 22, and 23, we had board members doing the read aloud at the elementary and at the preschool. On October 22nd, a number of the board members attended an award presentation for Dr. Budd for the UConn School of Education Distinguished Leadership Award. On the 22nd was the Boards and Commissions dinner, although it was the same night as the presentation, but Dr. Farron was there. Thank you. On the 24th was the rock dedication at Trumbull High School field in memory of Coach McDougall, and on the 25th, the Economic Development Breakfast. So it's not just the few hours that you see us here that we put in to serve our town. Okay, Dr. Chaffee, any comments from?
Thank you. Yeah, our agri-science program review is coming up. This is regularly scheduled on periodically. It's scheduled for December 4th, and 5th. It's a formal review conducted by the Connecticut State Department of Education consultant that comes here and does an extensive 2-day review of everything involving staff, students, outcomes, and so forth. We're currently making arrangements, actually, for our next Board of Ed meeting, scheduled for November 12th, to be held at AgriScience. And that evening, we'll have the opportunity to see the extensive greenhouse renovation that was funded through a grant. And staff members will be prepared that evening to bring us through a demonstration of what that greenhouse project is all about in terms of how it functions more efficiently. Secondly, I'd like to mention that the Technology Department head, Jeff Hackett, and I are in the process of applying for a state-funded grant. This is for a new media video system. It will be used to deliver live broadcasts of news from our THS studio, morning announcements at the high school, live events such as sporting events, concerts, special speakers, broadcasts from TCTV, our local TV channel. So we'll be updating you as we move forward in the application process. Dr. Budd and Mrs. Felici and I have discussed some data-driven services that have been allocated to Middlebrook. The grade 3 classroom concerns that were brought to our attention are being addressed with the allocations that we have or are in the process of discussing with them. We've had one meeting and we have another one coming up, but that process seems to be going very well. Program leaders, Mrs. Buckingham, Mrs. Santilli, and Department Chair for ELL, Mrs. Tavares, are helping us out with that. And fourth, I'd like to mention that as we approach November, plans are underway once again for extensive Veterans Day assemblies. The Monday, November 11th, assembly at the high school, which begins at 7:45 with refreshments, and then the program 8:30. Is also accompanied by 3 others that so far have extended invitations. Middlebrook has a program that's starting at 9 o'clock, Frenchtown at 9:30, and Jane Ryan in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. I also want to mention that extensive plans have been prepared for our November 5th Professional Development Day. As in past election days, this is a professional development day for teachers. Students, of course, are not in the school. Schools are closed to students. But it's a full day of sessions that will involve all pre-K to grade 12 teachers, and we'll give you an update on how that goes after November 5th. At the November 12th Board of Ed meeting.
Thank you, Dr.
Sure.
Mrs. Urbano, teacher's report.
Good evening. Oh, I think this is going to work better with this on. Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to share some things with you. Middle school science teachers wanted to thank Floria Malozzi. She was here before, for all her work the past few years with science curriculum. The results on the NGSS science assessment were better than anticipated. The new TCI and Amplify science curriculum at the middle school level are getting rave reviews, and it shows, even during tough budget times, what investing in new curriculum resources can provide to our students and to our teachers. Parents, students, and teachers at Trumbull High have expressed concern about the switch from full-year courses to semester courses in all subjects. It was never explained why this change occurred or how students who fail one semester in a full-year course will make up the credit. The concern is that the switch will result in higher rates of student failures and credit loss in classes, and also the effects on the students' GPAs are also a concern. I know John mentioned this, but I just wanted to repeat it. The TEA has noticed an apparent uptick in teacher resignations in the past year, from April through August of 2019. In the same time frame, there were 9 resignations in 2018 and 8 in 2017. The TEA would like to help identify if there are specific reasons for this increase, or is it just an anomaly. Therefore, the TEA will be asking the board to help secure a date for the CEA Blitz. The climate survey will also help returning and new members of the board developing an understanding of district needs. Couple events at the high school. On October 2nd, 16 THS math team members came in 7th out of 30 teams. And congratulations to the students. Yash Pramala was the highest scorer with 16 points out of 18 with 2 perfect rounds. Cyrus Asghari, Grace, I'm not sure how you say that. You never say her last name? Zhang. Grace Zhang, Dan McKeon, and Alex Coley each had 1 perfect round. They're off to a great start this year and are led by math faculty Elizabeth Capacabianca, Brian Darrow, and Scott Seaman. Also, and this just happened yesterday, 25 students in grades 9 through 12 attended the 2019 Great Debates, which was hosted by Connecticut chapter of the NAACP. The students watched 2 debates between Howard University and Harvard University. The college students debated 2 resolutions. First, the House believes that the House of Representatives should pursue impeachment for President Trump. Second, the House believes that ROC Nation, which is the entertainment company founded by Jay-Z, should not have entered into a partnership with the NFL. And again, these were debates that happened yesterday. It was a great opportunity for the students. And last, I would like to talk about October, which is National Media Literacy Week. The Library Media and Technology Integration Specialist Sue McKenna, Dean Pellegra, and Sarah Scrofani use this national event as a springboard to promote professional development at department meetings, the ongoing lunch and learns for the staff and for students, and highlighting Learning Commons resources that connect to curricular units of study in areas like science, social studies, and the arts. Also, the library has a new smart board, which was installed last night, so that the Media Center Learning Commons has another area for instruction and collaboration. Patrick Guptarik from the IT department is working closely with Sarah Scrofani to support the technology side of showcasing some of the new instructional techniques possible with the new smart board. Patrick attended PD with Sarah so that he would be prepared from a technology hardware standpoint to make it all work. And again, I have to, on a personal note, really acknowledge Sarah Scrofani. I know I've said it before, but I don't know if Sarah is here or not. But she's phenomenal. The teachers, she's always available, to work with the teachers to help them plan lessons, and she has done so much for me with my students and the social studies department. In fact, she came to a meeting with Dean and Sue to show my department all the different new programs that are available, and again, I don't know what we would do without them. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to reports and action items. The first one is a technology update of our summer 2019 projects. Dr. Chaffee, do you want to introduce Mr. Hackett?
Sure. Before Mr. Hackett begins, I'd like to mention that the projects that he will be discussing include a variety of different needs that needed attention. They include Chromebook deployment, Wi-Fi upgrades, classroom telephones, and network infrastructure. I'm sure he'll be prepared to give us more detail on all of those items.
Make sure she gets one for the minutes.
Be careful. Trip over. Thank you.
Because of what he just...
Well, thank you for having me tonight. As you can imagine, our summers are getting shorter and our work's getting longer. This year we had a very productive summer. Thank you for the funding for what we did this summer. I'd like to start off with the one-to-one fifth graders. All the new fifth graders this year got new Chromebooks, And again, the one-to-one program will allow them to take them from 5th grade all the way through 8th grade and into the high school. We've installed approximately 1,500 Chromebooks this year, and these are all the various locations they went. So if you have any questions, you could just stop me right in the middle. The one-to-one 5th graders was approximately 525. Second grade, second cart for second grade in the elementary. We found through curriculum, and Christine Heffley's here today, and Sarah also, if you have any questions. We found that second graders are adapting very easily to the new Chromebooks, especially the touch ones, which I have right here for Loretta. If you like, I can show you how to use it later. All right. In fact, I'll open it up.
I have to turn in my other one. Wow.
This is a Chromebook, basic Chromebook with touch functionality. The pricing is half of what the iPad is.
Wow.
And does the same functions. As you can tell, it acts like a regular Chromebook, and then it flips into a tablet.
And I'll turn in my iPad.
You can turn your iPad in, sure.
Nice.
Does she need a password?
Of course.
Password? Yes, you need a password.
That's nice.
Password?
I'll keep it for you.
Yes, you can keep it.
Again, the touch Chromebook. Trumbull High School Media Center, we installed a couple hundred in the Media Center. Also for general use in Trumbull High School. And most of these devices are on carts. What we ended up doing is saving the old carts from the old laptops that were 15 years old. We stored them for about 5 years, and we repurposed them to put the Chromebooks in them. Trumbull World Language now has Chromebooks for the curriculum. Dr. Budd invested in a curriculum that can be used with the Chromebooks. I think we installed 5 carts, about 150 for that. Replaced some of the old mini iPads with touch Chromebooks. So far, the curriculum is adaptive for the teachers and the students to use. We did the mini Chromebooks, and I believe it was science. Yeah, I have science here. And so far, it's working great. So our plan for this year is to replace the old iPads with the touch Chromebooks at half the cost. District replacements, we replaced some Chromebooks at the alternate school and also in the elementary school. Any questions on the Chromebooks?
How are we doing with the insurance? Are we finding there's a lot of, I mean, I know in the beginning, breakage, we did the covers. How's it going?
We're doing okay. In fact, Michelle just did the numbers for last year. We're up about 20% repairs. Most of the incidents are the first incidents. We have about 73% participating in the insurance, which is good. The only drawback is 85% of the breakage is the screens. So the tech integrators, as well as the principals in the middle schools, have been working with the students to try to help them be a little more savvy. I'll give you a good example is, you know, in middle school they have probably 8 books, and every one of them is pretty heavy. Sometimes we find that the laptop or the Chromebook with the cases on the bottom of the stack, and they come to the next class and they go like this. So we're finding some of the Chromebooks are breaking that way, but I think the education is warranted, and we are doing that out in the schools. I can tell you they are reliable. Out of 1,500 that we installed, we had 2 DOAs, dead on arrivals, which is phenomenal. And again, went through the bidding process. I think the ones that we put in this year were about $167 a piece.
Wow.
Which you really can't beat that.
Yeah.
Plus the licensing fee, which allows us to manage them all in our domain.
You put a big place meat on top.
Place me. Right.
Place me on.
Whatever works, Mr. Ward. Trust me. I mean, the guys are really getting good at changing screens, I got to tell you. It started out about 15, 20 minutes. Now it's 5 minutes. I mean, it's really good. So we're in a good place with the Chromebooks.
And the insurance fund is covering everything?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good shape.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
We should start marketing the repairs of the district.
Oh.
Easy. Yeah, right. We found that we need to upgrade the tablets for the computer class at Trumbull High School. There's a course that I think is Matt. Is that Matt teaches the app class? The app class. So they create apps with the students. It's a great program. So we replaced those for them this year. The old ones are about 8 years old. We did a lot of upgrade infrastructure again this year. We've done the high school, we've done middle schools, now it's turn to take care of the elementary schools. So we did about approximately half of the access points, which are those little boxes in the ceiling. In the elementary school, we did about 70 of them. See a little white box? It's an access point. That's what gives you the Wi-Fi. So we have those in every classroom.
Okay.
Jackie knows that, right, Jackie? With the access points, what we did is we took the older ones out of the middle schools last year and repurposed them in the elementary school as well, the other half of the classrooms, just to give more bandwidth. We put additional security cameras at the AgriScience in the barn areas. That was through the grant, the Green ASCII grant. In fact, we're just connecting those now. I guess there was needed, you needed coverage in the fields, in the barns,
Yeah.
where the animals are, so
Okay, great.
we're just wrapping that up now. Upgrade our internet security filter. This is specifically for Chromebooks. It also has a self-harm module. It's called Goal Guardian. So far, we like it. It's very user-friendly. And we're rolling out the self-harm, I believe, a couple months, self-harm module. Okay.
And how does it work? What does it do?
It filters internet content.
So it's a new filter.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It filters internet contact here when they're in the Trumbull Public Schools domain, as well as when they bring the device home.
Oh,
The last item is multiple server upgrades and software. We upgraded a security server. And typically now that the servers are so powerful that we're able to make them virtual servers. In other words, we could take one big server, almost like a mainframe technology, and put multiple applications on there. And we've been doing that for the last couple of years, and we're saving some money in our maintenance account, but that's working really well for us as well.
okay. Questions?
Any
anyone?
questions?
It's an excellent report.
Yeah.
Is there a dollar figure on this from Sean? In other words, are we within the budget of the technology we budgeted for? Huh. Is the smart board been installed at the classroom and the weight room?
I
Or do
think
we
that
still
happened
work?
today. No, that happened today.
Okay.
I know they were at the high school, but I
good.
think that happened today. Yes.
No, very nice.
Elaine was there. They did great. Excellent. Very good. Just to give you a little heads up on the budget for next year, we're going to focus on replacing some of the old smart boards, which are very expensive. And you're not replacing the projectors anymore in the smart boards. You're replacing with LCD screens, touchable LCD screens. So the cost is a little less, but the durability and the longevity is so much better, so much longer.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Mrs. Timpanelli?
Jeff, are there a lot of repairs on the smart boards? Do you have any? in August?
Yeah, they're starting to break down. It's not so much the smart boards, it's the projectors. They have a certain life. I mean, we replace the bulbs if it's a bulb, and they're expensive too. They're like $300 a piece. But yeah, some of the projectors are getting old, and they are starting to die. What we do is when we replace a smart board with a newer technology, we take the old projector, and Sean Tate at the high school refurbishes it, blows it out, puts a new bulb in it, and we use it as a spare. But some of the projectors are hard to find even on eBay. I mean, we had to buy a projector the other day on eBay.
When did we buy our first smart boards? I've been here a
Oh,
long time.
boy.
We bought our first smart board at Frenchtown, 2003. When
That
we
w-
opened, we had
Right.
smart boards, so all that equipment is old. This is 2019. I mean, there's some newer.
We have refurbished
'cause we
some
rolled it out.
projectors and stuff, and then the technology changes, you know, just like your TVs. You know, now we have HDMI.
Yeah.
We have 4K screens. I mean, we just,
We're using a different brand now also, which is the industry standard.
yes, which is smart, right? Not, I think we use Polyvision at your school,
Yeah.
Jackie?
We had Polyvision.
With-
And that was just because that was the only company that would give us a deal.
Correct.
You know, and I wanted to open with one in every
Every classroom.
classroom if we were going to be on the cutting edge, so. And Smart was just starting. so.
They were. I think now they have 70 or 75% of the market right now.
Any other questions? Mr. Ward?
Just a quick one. Do we service any of the town at the town library or the town hall?
we do not.
Are we together on some of our bidding?
Some of our purchasing, we
I
are,
wasn't sure if we, over the years, Dr. Trevor, have they asked us for assistance or help in their technology, or?
we've hired some techs for them over the years. We've gone out to bid, and they've used our bids, which is a good thing, so we have the same amount of equipment.
The police department involved in this, and public works, are they?
Typically, the police department kind of does their own thing from what I see, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all, just a question about town services.
Scales of economy are huge for us, and
Yeah.
if they wanted to buy off our bids, I mean, I'm all for that. That's great. They have used some of the same technologies that we use. The Wi-Fi is Meraki.
Yeah.
They also use the Meraki now. So,
Thank you.
recently called me to find out how they go about leasing IT equipment.
Oh,
They're going to start doing that.
great.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Hackett.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, here. No, it's okay.
See?
Okay, can I get a motion for approval of the regular and special meetings that took place on 10/15?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And, oh, thank you. One abstention. Dr. Farron. She was in Ireland. All right. Personnel. Dr. Chaffee.
Thank you. I think before Mrs. Timpanelli goes through the list of 8 items that are on the personnel sheet, I just wanted to mention that if a teacher is planning on retirement, there is a TEA contractual incentive for those who qualify if the retirement letter is submitted by November 1. So this is a once per year TEA contractual offering. And then I'd like to say a few words about each of the teachers after the list is brought to the board.
Would you like to read that list?
Okay, here we go. Okay. Lisa Beers, grade 5 teacher at Booth Hill Elementary School since September 1986, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Angela Karen, math teacher at Madison Middle School since August 2006, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Stephanie Dominic, grade 3 teacher at Daniels Farm Elementary School since August 2004, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Luann Donovan, social worker at Middlebrook Elementary School since August 1999, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Sylvia Lemoyne, music teacher at Booth Hill Elementary School since September 1986, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Thomas Pikarski, vocational agri-science teacher at the Agri-Science and Biotechnology Center since December 1997, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Eileen Piquette, grade 2 teacher at Middlebrook Elementary School since September 1987, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Julie Rogowski, kindergarten teacher at Booth Hill Elementary School since May 2001, retiring effective June 30th, 2020. Make a motion to accept the above.
Can I get a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Norcell. Dr. Chaffee, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Beginning with Angela Karen. Angela Karen was one of the original Madison Middle School staff members who contributed to the beginning of our district-wide PBIS program initiative. It's a process that takes 3 years for each school to be trained. After this, her 14th year in Trumbull, she will definitely be missed by everyone at Madison. Secondly, Thomas Pikarski, Pikowski. This is Mr. Pikowski's 23rd year as a faculty member at our agri-science program. His many students who are from various communities are certainly aware of his passion for agri-science and the real-world applications of the classroom content there. Stephanie Dominic. Stephanie Dominic has been with us in Trumbull since 2004. This is her 16th year. I know that the parents of her students, colleagues over at Daniels Farm are grateful for her contributions not only to her students but also to the entire school. Luann Donovan has a unique contribution that I wanted to mention. She's been instrumental in bringing the PBIS program at Middlebrook to an even higher level. As a committed social worker, she moved the school forward with Mark Brackett's ruler program approach to emotional intelligence. Next, Eileen Paquette. Eileen Paquette is also an outstanding Middlebrook faculty member along with Luann Donovan. Presently, she is a grade 2 teacher, and this is her 33rd year in Trumbull. She will be missed by her students and the entire Middlebrook community. Moving over to Booth Hill. Julie Rakowski, presently a kindergarten teacher at Booth Hill, has been in Trumbull as an elementary teacher for 19 years. She joins her Booth Hill colleagues Sylvia Lemoyne and Lisa Beers in their final year of outstanding service to her students at Booth Hill. And I wanted to ask Mr. Ward, since he hired both Mrs. Lemoyne and Lisa Beers, if he could take a moment to share his thoughts about those two teachers.
Sylvia Lemoyne, a music teacher, it's outstanding all the years that she has worked in music. Over the years, she's coordinated not only Booth Hill, but also helped other teachers of music in the district. Her better half, Steve Lemoyne, retired a couple of years ago. Yeah. So they both of them are looking forward to their retirement. Susie's sorely missed. Lisa Bears, our hired Lisa, fantastic teachers. Of the staff that's remaining, I only got 2 or 3 left after I retired.
Oh.
I'm still waiting for the rest, but as far as teachers that do over the years at this board, I've seen the youth selection regard. It's for many good reasons. And one probably because they want to enjoy the retirement years as a teacher.
They've earned it.
And we're finding statewide, many teachers are taking advantage of the present programs that are being offered by the state of Connecticut in the retirement system. Not so much of the disappointment of what they're doing and why they're retiring. So it's important that we find that element, that there's something that's not doing well with us and why they want to retire, we should know what the real reasons are. But they were sorely missed. But we're very fortunate over the last 5 or 6 years I've attended the new teacher orientation for Dr. Budd. We're getting a core of excellent teachers to replace these teachers. A lot of people want to come and teach in Trumbull, so we get good cream of the crop are coming to teach. We're very lucky to grab those teachers when they want to begin their career. Good place to start.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Yes, Mrs.
So I just recently went to a retired workshop, and I was even surprised to hear the numbers. In the past, when we were teachers, when we were young, the split was always 70-30, 60-40, and one of the things they remind us, of course, along with our health care and pensions, is that we're adding about 2,000 teachers per year retiring all over Connecticut, and we're going to be up to almost 38 or 39,000 versus, again, I don't have the exact numbers, I want to say 53, 54,000 active. Of course, we were concerned from our pension point of view, but again, teachers are leaving the profession for personal reasons, but I guess it's us baby boomers mostly. But that, I was shocked with those numbers myself.
Yes, Mrs.
I just want to say, Luann Donovan started at Tashua because I hired her at Tashua, and she was, really a marvelous person and had such great ideas, and then transferred to Middlebrook. So, when she came, she was already outstanding.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Farron.
Mrs. Rogowski, as I called her then for my daughter, was actually at Jane Ryan, my daughter's kindergarten teacher when I first started in the Trumbull schools, and she was fabulous. A little rocky start that I will take complete credit for because it was a stressful time in my life, but she was fabulous. Absolutely loved her, and so did my daughter.
Okay, any more comments? We'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That was unanimous. And we wish them all well. Yes. Okay. Policy Committee, Mrs. Norcell.
Yes, tonight we're going to be looking at just one policy, reimbursement of expenses. Tonight is both the first and second reading. this did exist as a policy. This is all updating and changing of language. Dr. Budd will walk us through it since there is many changes.
Yes, as we talked about last month, or perhaps the month before, the board and specifically the Finance Committee have been interested in our looking at policies that relate to financial operations to ensure that those policies reflect the best practices, not just of this district, but of other districts. And you'll remember about a month and a half ago, we thus looked at the budget transfer policy and updated that. And now tonight you see a revised proposed policy on reimbursement of expenses. And it's employee reimbursement of expenses, actually. And I will say that the third of the three finance policies we're looking on relate to expenditures from special accounts, 205 accounts, grants, et cetera. But we've sequenced these in a logical way. Based on our needs, Dr. Chalfie, Mr. O'Keefe, and myself, especially to be fair in stewarding through you, the Board of Education, the money of the taxpayers of Trumbull. And so this policy covers, in general, employee reimbursement of expenses in two ways. First, through attendance at activities off-site. We'll say conferences are a common example. And second, through general mileage reimbursement. In some cases, the changes proposed to this policy are, as Ms. Norcell said, wordsmithing, but in others they're a little bit more significant. We did have a special meeting of the policy committee because from a cost control point of view, some changes to this policy will allow the funds of this year's budget to be used more effectively and efficiently, and also give us better cost measures as the year goes on about rolling expenditures in items like mileage reimbursement. So I'm going to highlight the key changes for you, but of course, if you have any other changes, please ask. Before I do that, I want to point out that because this policy does affect procedures that will have a direct positive financial effect, our recommendation is going to be that you approve both as a first and second reading, waiving the typical 30 days with an effective date of November 1st, which will give us enough time to adequately publicize it to employees moving forward. This policy relates to all employee groups, and if you look at the policy statement itself on page 1, based on some needs to clarify this, we have added a sentence you see at the end of page 1 clarifying that this policy and its regulations apply to all funding sources that relate to the Board of Education. That the biggest container for that is the Board of Education budget, but also funds related to this are grants received by the Board of Education and special revenue 205 accounts. And as I mentioned, those last couple will come back again in the third policy. But the reimbursement of expenses for this policy are for any funds that flow through the board, not just through the actual operating budget. So then we get to the regulations themselves. And I would say the key two things that you'll see throughout are the stressing of pre-approval of expenses, except in emergency situations, and timeliness of submission of expenses. And so, for example, if you look on page 2, we talk about in section A, number 3, that when employees fill out the request for professional day leave form, that the proposed expense not only has to be documented, but attached to a Board of Education line item number or other number if it's coming from a grant or 205 account, because that allows in my office and or in Mr. O'Keefe's office appropriate encumbrances of the funds so that there are not unexpected expenditures in areas that we didn't anticipate. When we get over to page 2 going on to page 3, somebody at the policy committee asked me to make sure I state this, which is we've clarified that the expenses we reimburse for are for the employees of the board, which might seem obvious, but that employees are responsible for submitting documentation that clearly indicates their expenses, as opposed to expenses of someone who may have traveled with them. Then on page 3, you'll see this breakdown, as in the current policy, into categories of expense. So the first category, category C, is expenses related to registration fees. And again, from a cost control perspective, we're saying here that except in emergency circumstances, registration fees must be paid by staff in the assistant superintendent's office, and that it's only in an emergency circumstance that those fees are going to be paid some other way. Because when we get credit card statements later for reimbursement, it slows down the process and it doesn't achieve us the best cost controls or processing. Now, there have been some questions in the past related to transportation. And I want to stress that some of the categories I'm talking about are exceptionally rarely used, but obviously if we don't have a regulation, there won't be something to refer to if it needs to be used again. So the first category of airline travel, the change is that airline travel must be arranged in conjunction with personnel in Mr. O'Keefe's office and cannot be done by other employees, and that the purchase of tickets has to be done by staff in his office or my office as well, again, except in emergency circumstances. And we could discuss what that might be, but it would be a very unusual circumstance. And it's clear that airline travel should be handled by staff who are familiar with that if it must be done, because there are all these factors that relate to getting the most competitive rate. And obviously, again, we're back to pre-approval, so we're in a timely fashion. So you're going to see throughout this policy the phrase "when necessary and pre-approved," and in working with Mr. O'Keefe and his staff, the idea is that stressing that will highlight it in a really key way. A couple of other changes over on page 4 that I would highlight. Some of these related to automobile use or meal expenses are not significantly changed. But when we get down to page 4, we again would say that lodging expenses must be done by staff in Mr. O'Keefe's office or in my office, again, because there are competitive rates involved. And here you then have staff who focus on that when it's necessary, as opposed to somebody for a one-time event trying to navigate that process. Again, these are things that all come back to the pre-approval process. So employees documenting these and then allowing us to process them makes the most sense. At the top of page 5, we are done with conference attendance, and we're in the general category of mileage reimbursement. And essentially, mileage reimbursement is done using a form from the business office and falls into some general categories, but we do have some itinerant employees who, by nature of their job schedule, travel as part of their workday. Examples would be technicians in Mr. Hackett's office and some of our special teachers who travel from one school to the next. That's one kind of regular reimbursement. There are some reimbursements that are unusual because somebody has to attend a meeting at a school or at the Long Hill building. That's not their normal schedule, but they're going to have be reimbursed for that. So in this section, as in all the other sections, there are very clear requirements about timeliness of submitting receipts. Many of these requirements relate to requirements of the auditors related to what they need to see, but from the board's position throughout last year, moving into this summer and this year, Mr. O'Keefe and I have worked very hard on this policy over a variety of months. We have brought it first to the Finance Committee for a review, the board's Finance Committee. We've brought it to a Policy Committee for a review. It comes to you from those groups with their endorsement that we implement these clearer regulations now, or November 1st, so they can be in effect as soon as possible, with the theory that the longer we wait, the less cost control we have over a smaller amount of the budget. I don't know if Mr. O'Keefe might want to comment more on any of this.
One thing I might add, the reason for the timeliness of, especially the mileage reimbursements, is every year we get requests for reimbursement of mileage in the following July. We're closing the books, and we get 10 months' worth of mileage reimbursements that are unencumbered and kind of low. It's not huge dollars, but it does add up. So we have to have mileage reimbursements submitted on a monthly basis and within 10 days following the end of that month.
That's
Very
a great
helpful.
idea.
But Jonathan and I collaborated extensively on this, and this is an excellent, excellent product.
Yes,
In the end,
Mrs.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, Mr. Yep.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the end, it's about the dollars that the town and the taxpayers give you for us to steward, that we then say we need to maximize their use on student learning. And to the extent that we have surprises as the year goes on, that doesn't affect anybody positively.
Okay, two things I want to ask. This all says everything gets approved by Mr. O'Keefe or the assistant superintendent. What if the superintendent goes out somewhere? Who approves that?
That happen?
I mean, who's watching him?
well,
Mileage expenses that I might incur by going from school to school or going to a professional development.
Oh, I don't mean that, Gary. I mean going away somewhere.
Oh.
Like getting on a plane and flying. Who approves that? Does that come to us?
I don't do that.
actually, it is,
Yeah, when I do the one out of state trip I take is with the We the People, and those expenses actually are sent to Mr. O'Keefe, but then that form with those expenses are sent to Town Hall for Anthony Musto to review and approve.
He has to approve all of Gary's mileage.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
didn't know that. That took care of that.
Okay, and my second question, when you're speaking of mileage between buildings, maybe we should take a look at the schedules, teacher schedules, and try to reduce the number of teachers that have to move between schools, if that's possible. I don't know if that is, but I'm sure the principals might have a solution to that, or, a suggestion on how to cut down on that.
I think that's a fair recommendation, and I think that every teacher I know of wants to spend the full time they have working with kids, not on the road. And so, although, wow, wait a minute, somebody's traveling somewhere right now. Turn left on Main Street. 10 days. There is great inefficiency about traveling between schools, and you realize that if you're in the Booth Hill area and the Trumbull High area. It reduces any one principal's ability to know who's in the building all day and to utilize them in different ways when we have different schedules at one school or another. And we have seen in the early part of this year that there are some schedules that can be productively altered to positively affect teachers and students, actually.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I was going to say that because most teachers like to be in their one school or at the most two. When you have teachers moving all around, I know sometimes like with the Spanish 5, you couldn't avoid it. You're losing teaching time, you're losing, forget even the gas mileage, you're losing teaching time.
That's right.
So that is important.
And I think we've made a move when people need to be in more than one school by the nature of that particular assignment to not have that travel happen in the middle of a day, but to say something, for example, like you're at school A Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and school B Tuesday, Thursday. So at least when you get to a location, you're there for the entire time, and a principal can rely on that. Parents can rely on getting in touch with you, et cetera.
It's always a good idea because sometimes the principals need them for other duties or responsibilities during the school day.
That's right.
There are some instances where it is productive and efficient to, if this traveling is done at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, to alleviate the need for a part-time teacher. For instance, I think we talked just recently about 2 Trumbull High social studies teachers who begin their day, their first period, one of them at Hillcrest, one of them at Madison, but it's at the beginning of the day, so they do the first period at the middle schools and then move to the high school. It's a one-year assignment because we don't like having traveling teachers, but it again is an alternative to hiring a part-time teacher to stay at those middle schools.
Again, that's what I mean about taking a look at the schedules.
Yeah.
You know, that's important.
Madam Chair, are athletic events tied into this reimbursement? I just thought I'd ask the question. I don't know.
Sometimes, for example, Mike King will be traveling to an event, and that would obviously require him to be reimbursed.
Are coaches also reimbursed for their travel time?
Probably a lot of it.
Bands, drinks?
Not if they're on the buses.
No.
No,
No upgrades, I guess, right now. There are no upgrades once you get to the hotel, right? And just a thought, in the last 5 years, has any principal ever gone to a national principals conference that I'm aware of? Or even a secondary or elementary principals conference? In our day, Mrs. Norsell,
Well, Mike, we paid
we paid
ourselves. That was
to go to these
Choice.
national conferences. I guess I've never seen a request to go to a,
Mike and
Yeah.
myself and Gail and even,
Turn on your mic.
it is on, did go to national conferences, but they were not paid for by Trumbull Board funds. We did get permission from the superintendent to attend meetings, and when I was running for national president, he allowed 4 people they were paying to go with me, and the superintendent came with me.
all the way to California.
On your own.
On their own. Everybody
On their own.
paid on their own, but,
That's different, yeah.
you know, that was different, but
That's
Can we
all,
go, can we go back to the conversation about, I hate to point a finger at you guys because you do a great job, but the superintendent and assistant superintendent. I understand, Dr. Chaffee, that your reimbursement is approved or paid through the town treasurer, but that's after the expense is already incurred. What about prior approval, which is different than review after it's incurred? Is that something that we should be considering?
I think that,
Yeah.
I think it would go to the board for approval if the professional development or the travel, if you will, was not related directly to the teaching learning process. Again, the one out of state travel that I do is with the We the People team, so it's professional development for me solely. But if it was, I agree, it would go to the board for approval.
So why don't we figure out a way to put something in about that? So of course, it's only when there's an overnight stay involved. I mean,
Yes, I was going to add, my sense from most districts is that is handled contractually with the superintendent and the
It is?
assistant
It's
superintendent.
in the contract?
True.
I don't know if it's in our contract, but yeah.
That is what I see. I see language like that in similar
Okay.
policies. I would certainly endorse that.
Okay.
So I know, speaking to a few other people who, I've several teachers now sitting on different boards of eds, and again, not you, Dr. Chaffee, but we're looking at a new superintendent. A lot of boards of eds have that even the superintendent, if they're traveling overnight and especially out of state, they have to have a 2/3 vote of the board to approve it. I don't know, something, unless it's already in his contract or her contract.
I'm
But
not,
that's-
I don't pretend to be an expert on.
Yeah, I've asked a few
Perhaps
friends who are on
these
different
firms-
boards of eds.
Right, the different firms you're working, or you could be working with a firm, would have more knowledge of that. I do know that
You want to wait?
at least some superintendents and assistant superintendents have contract language,
yeah, I
sometimes the board chairperson, sometimes the full board. I guess my thought would be, it might be more appropriate in an individual contract. And I would certainly support that from my position, but I don't speak for anybody else.
Okay. Well, we can make sure that we note it when we're working on a new contract, and we can always bring it back if it's Doesn't work.
We don't have a motion yet, so I
No, I
can't
know.
amend the motion. But
Oh, that's true.
my thought would be to amend the motion in this page 1 that just says superintendent's travel is addressed outside this policy.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, so let me make a motion to approve the combined first and second reading of policy number 4133, waiving the typical 30-day minimum requirement between the first and second readings with an effective date of November 1st, 2019. Now, I'd like to make a motion to amend this policy and add a sentence at the end of the first paragraph on page 1 stating that travel of the superintendent is excluded from this policy and would be addressed in a contract.
Okay. I like that. Okay. Okay, so first we're going to vote on the motion to amend. All in favor? Aye. And is there any other discussion on the policy itself?
Could I ask actually a
Yes.
clarifying question on that? Were you just speaking of travel, or do you mean reimbursement?
Travel reimbursement.
Just travel reimbursement? Not, this policy is about all reimbursement, travel reimbursement. I
Oh.
just want to have it correct, so when we,
What else does a superintendent get reimbursed for?
well, as Sean, I think it said, the mileage goes to the town treasurer, and, yeah,
This-
the travel reimbursement, I just want to be sure you're talking about the transportation reimbursement, which is section D of this policy, as opposed to conference registration, lodging, or other things, airline, which is not in the transportation. Well, the airline is, but not the others, I just.
I would include all reimbursement expenses.
I think that was the intent of what you were
Yes,
saying.
yes.
I at least heard the intent that you were asking that for the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, which is fine with me, except the sentence is just the superintendent. So would it be both?
Yes, because otherwise the assistant superintendent's not covered by.
No, his would be approved by the superintendent.
I was thinking, and I don't know how it would work, I'm just,
The policy would have to be written that way, because right now we don't have the superintendent approving anything. We just have the assistant superintendent and Sean doing the approval. So if we want to approve the superintendents, we should be approving the assistant superintendent or attendants.
How does that work now?
Because otherwise, we'd have to write Gary in there, or, not Gary,
Right.
a superintendent to be a person.
Yeah.
so right now, the assistant superintendent is approving
Or Sean,
everything.
either one.
Or Sean.
So, yeah, then you would take it
And this-
to both.
And my expenses, say mileage reimbursement, are submitted to the superintendent.
Yes.
A suggestion might be that at both those levels, superintendent and assistant superintendent, you address it contractually.
Right.
Um,
So do we amend the amendment?
I was just trying to get clarification
we
on that
just
sentence,
changed-
and I see
No,
that.
it's a good discussion.
We might have to amend it, yeah.
Can we start over? No, we can't.
Yes.
To add a sentence on the end of page 1 to include a statement that this policy excludes the superintendent and the assistant superintendent in relation to reimbursement of expenses.
Did we all get that? Okay.
What's, in what now? Did you get it, Elaine?
Per the contract.
To be addressed at a contractual level.
We good? Okay. Can you read that back?
Play the tape.
Jonathan, read it back, so we know.
Oh, Elaine would be
Elaine,
better
read it
than
back.
So I have to, first of all, you waive the 30-day minimum, and to add a sentence at the end of page 1, is that the way you want to say it, the end of page 1?
That's okay. Or the end of the first paragraph?
Yeah.
At the end of the policy statement. Right?
To include the sentence that this policy excludes the superintendent and assistant superintendent in relation to reimbursement of expenses. That's the way you got it. Are you good with that?
I don't think we have to specifically say that it's addressed at the contractual level. Just, this policy excludes those two positions.
Okay. Okay. We're good? Okay, so we need a second on this motion.
This one, I Still second.
Okay. So now we're going to vote on this second, this amended motion. So all in favor? Aye. Okay, now we're back to the amended motion. So is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amended motion? Aye?
Aye.
Perfect. Made it through that one. Thank you.
All set, Elaine? We're good? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Butt. And now we're going to move
Just
on.
have one question for Jonathan. Jonathan, will you go over this with the principals so that they can then do a faculty meeting? Because there are some changes that staff have to be
Right, our
aware of.
plan is to send it right away after,
Yeah.
after we add that to the representatives of the bargaining units tomorrow, and also to all of the staff. But then we'll review it in a little more detail at the upcoming principals meeting,
Yeah.
which is Friday.
Because you know how they'll miss little things, and then Sean will still be getting papers 6 months from now.
It's on the agenda for this Friday for elementary, next week for middle school and high school.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, we're going to move on to curriculum. Mrs. Petiti.
So we have two new curriculum guides. We have an advanced placement computer science curriculum guide and a curriculum guide for advanced placement French language and culture. So before Dr. Budd speaks, these were both excellent updates, but I was very impressed with our French teacher who said he had taught at 4 different school systems. I think this was his second year.
Yes, at Trump.
And he said he was just that students, and he teaches not just the AP, different levels of French, that he was so impressed with our Trumbull students. They say thank you, and thank you for what you said. So it made us all feel good. We really felt good in the meeting. But
Well,
very,
you know, he said
very
most of
impressed
those
with
things-
our teachers.
He said most of those things in French, so
Yes,
Mr.
well,
Petiti and
we
Mr.
had him
Pinelli picked
translate.
up more than Mr. Ward and myself.
Yeah.
But he was very positive. so
I
that's-
asked him to say it in French.
These sound like fun curriculum. These
Well,
sound
we
like
No,
have
but
to
you
try to
also-
keep it in English on.
Jonathan, he did give us results, the AP results. The department head was there, and they gave us the AP test results. Were very good for French for a second year, for a teacher having a second year of this course. I don't have them with me, but they were 12 out of 12
and I
passed,
think
but they were 12, they were 3 or above.
Yes,
They
they
were
had
3, 4, and 5,
3,
so
4,
that's
and
pretty good.
5s. Yep.
That's right.
So very impressed.
So I just want to first note that the minutes here, to attach to the minutes, every October I share with the curriculum committee the matrix of our curriculum guide.
Forgot about
And under your work for the past 4 years, we have made significant progress. And so when you skim down the number of guides approved since 2015, as well as the ones that are in progress, and those are being worked on this year, is significant. But this will drive the budget proposal that you'll see from our department coming forth next month, particularly in the area at the K-5 level of social studies, which I've talked about before with you all, but we still are in the 1980s there in some grades, and we're just going to propel past the turn of the century and into 2020 because it's a really good outgrowth of where we've been with the reading and writing workshop, and social studies is much more integrated now than it might have been before those approaches. So you can see it's organized by subject area. This is every course or program that we teach, and that brings me to the first curriculum guide, which is the AP Computer Science A curriculum guide. This is the Java programming course, currently taught by Mr. Kaminsky, who's had extensive training. The board in 2014-2015 approved this course, and it's had great success. At Trumbull High School, students are using Java to create applied projects. And between this and the computer science programming course, Mr. Hackett mentioned that you heard about a couple months ago, we have over a 1.0 FTE at the high school teaching computer science, and I think that's going to lead at the next curriculum committee meeting. I would strongly predict to some exciting new proposals, and that aligns with great STEM goals for computer science. So I would certainly support you supporting this one, and as Ms. Petiti and Ms. Timpanelli say, the AP French Language and Culture is a revision of a guide, but The College Board has changed the AP Languages exams somewhat significantly in the past few years. This AP French aligns thematically with other AP courses like Italian and Spanish. And Mr. Liebeskin did an excellent job not just teaching the course, but also talking to us about the course and integrating great text as well as online resources. It can't be forgotten that we had nearly 100 seniors get the seal of biliteracy last year, and many of them were in French, and that means they're bilingual in English and French, and very few of them were native speakers of French before they began Trumbull's program, so credit to the community on that.
That's true. And also the teachers, both of them made a comment about allowing them to attend Taft School for professional development in the summer and how wonderful it was for them. It gives them the information they need from the level 2 all the way up to the AP. So they're very happy that we support that and they're able to go there. It's a great program. I remember I went there and it was a great program when I went.
It's money well spent. I mean, our veteran teachers, as well as the new teachers teaching an AP course or even just one of the advanced courses. And now that students can get college credit for a 3 or above.
A little easier, yeah.
It really, and I hopefully our goal in the future is to bring someone. A parent asked me recently, do we have freshman AP? I said, I don't think we have any yet, but, you know, we could look at some of the arts because it is a difference. I mean, it means maybe a semester less in college or taking a grad program at the end. So I think it's an excellent investment.
And that's a good question. We are sometimes asked, and I think the new graduation requirements have changed the calculus of that a little bit. Many of our AP courses quite naturally have some prerequisite to them, and we also have the obligation to make sure in the freshman year that we're exposing kids to the core areas they have to achieve 4 years of, so we're not log jamming them a junior and senior year. But I think you'll see more in that direction for sure.
It takes the pressure off. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Timpanelli. Okay, any more comments on either of these curriculum guides? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to our Finance Committee report. Mr. O'Keefe.
The Finance Committee of the Board met on October 24th, 2019, to review the financials through September 30, 2019. In addition to the financials, the committee discussed the recently expanded breakfast program at the middle school and elementary schools, which are doing very well. Where I think we're averaging about 142 meals per day. And I believe that will continue to grow and drive revenue and profit for the Food Services Department. Also, we discussed, and this is going to be a monthly thing, just to keep track of all unbudgeted special education expenses and transportation related to special education. So we had our first review at that meeting as well. And then finally, we discussed an update on the recent health plan renewal study from Siegel Consulting. And essentially, what was presented to us by Siegel Consulting is that based on the fact that our claims over the last 12 months versus the premiums paid in over the last 12 months, the claims far exceed what the premiums were that we paid in by roughly $2.5 million. And if we do decide to go out to bid, it'll be a tough nut to crack. I mean, it will be virtually impossible to get bids that are more competitive than the state partnership plan. And that was also concluded by Fairfield, and a similar study is being done in Bethel, who are also on the partnership plan. And I believe Bethel will also come to that same conclusion, that it'll be very tough to underrun the partnership plan, even with the, the uplift that has been approved recently.
Not everyone here may be familiar with the rates for next year. Could you share that?
Well, we don't know the rates for next year. The rates for next year won't be decided until April of 2020. But the Siegel Consulting did do a projection based on what they know now, and they believe that the overall rates for the health plan will go up about 8%. So factor the 8% increase with a phase-in, a 2-year phase-in of the 4% uplift. So we'll get an extra 2% uplift for Fairfield rates.
Fairfield
So-
County.
For Fairfield County, which would mean that our health plan premiums would be up by about 10% next year. So,
And can you just give us a general idea of what that dollar amount is?
dollar amount would be, I know in percentage terms, it would drive by itself 1.4 points of growth. So if everything remained flat, our budget would need to grow 1.4% next year.
Just for
And we know that that's not going to happen, you know, given salaries and so on.
You should say it in dollars.
Pardon? Yeah, but we don't know the dollars.
It should be
The dollars,
approximate.
it's probably about $1.5 million,
Yeah.
something like
Okay.
that. Could be a little bit higher than that, 1.6.
Yes.
And with all these retirements that happen, is there any change in the population of incoming teachers and potential cost if they're younger families versus
Well, here's
single
what
retired?
happens. Well, typically, when we, in the past few years, we've had a number of retirement incentives, and we have done very well with those. But typically, what happens when someone retires, it's typically a two-person coverage, you know, the employee and the spouse, two-person coverage, and typically backfilled by minimum two-person, if not a family. So it could have a negative impact on us when someone retires. If we get someone right out of school to backfill, then that's savings.
Until they get married and start a family.
Well, we do try to discourage it.
We try to control
So,
Okay. Questions, or we'll move on? I know you have more of a report there. Okay. Yep.
okay. Over to the financials through September. Our expense through 3 months is $15.4 million. When you look at the 15.4 versus our full-year budget, we've achieved 14.5% of that budget through September, which is below the 2-year average, which is 16.4%. When you look at the categories of spend, salaries, we've spent 11.9% of the budget, and that is also slightly below both the 2-year average and the prior year. The 2-year average was 12.3%, and the prior year 12%. So we're slightly below our spend rate in salaries. Benefits, through September, we've spent 15.8%, which is slightly above the prior year of 15.4%. One thing we need to do here is we need to just continue. The health plan is a significant piece of our expense, so we do need to continue to monitor it for any changes that happen during the year. We did budget for 769 employees being in the plan, and we are exactly at 769 right now.
Good job.
However, the mix has changed. We budgeted for 371 family members, and we're up around 400. So that by itself, family costs more, so that's going to drive a little bit more expense. So we're going to continue to watch that. Services professional and technical, we're at 31%, which is slightly below our 2-year average. Services property, we're at 15.2%, again below both the 2-year average, which is 16.1%, and prior year at 17.2%. One of the areas we need to monitor there is electricity. Our electric bills for, I think it's 3 or 4 of our schools now include a payback for the retro commissioning work that was done several years ago. We got an interest-free loan for some of that work. It was a couple $100,000, but we're now having to pay that back over, I think it's a 3 or 4 year period. So that's adding to the bill. So we just got to continue to monitor that. Services purchased other, we're at 18.1% of our budget, below our 2-year average, but excuse me, but above our prior year, and that's primarily driven by higher outplaced tuition. So right now, if you look at our outplaced tuition for special ed, Through September, we're at 1.5 million. Last year, at the same time, we were at 1.0. So we got to continue to watch that. And that did come up when we discussed the unbudgeted sped that we need to keep watching the outplaced tuition.
Yes.
So Sean, when you named that number, how many students more or less does that cover when you give that?
Outplaced tuition.
When it's up $500,000?
Well, I mean, in general, like when you give the number, are we covering 10 students, 5 students overall? Just
I
approximate.
don't have that off the top of my head. I should know that at the top of my head, but I don't know that right now. So
Okay.
I'll have to give that to you.
That number. I think it was 51.
But the number's increasing. I can tell you that. Supplies, we're at 43% of the budget, and that's slightly above both the 2-year and the prior year. Areas where we're spending a little bit more in terms of attainment versus budget are textbooks, online subscriptions, and testing materials. And then going the other way, partly offsetting, is lower spending on classroom supplies. Property, the property line, which includes office equipment and furniture, we're at 53%. It's a small budget. And that also includes equipment, computer equipment. So we've spent earlier on in the year, so we expect that percentage will come down, especially with E-rate funds coming in. And then finally, other, where lower dues and fees are driving that area right there. On a year-to-year basis, our spending is up 7.5% versus a budgeted growth rate of 2.49. That's about $1 million versus the budgeted growth rate. You know, a lot of that is timing, but right now, the two issues that we're looking at, you know, in terms of the year-to-year increase, outplaced tuition and benefits, and we continue to monitor those. Budget transfers, at the Finance Committee, we discussed 5 budget transfers that occurred between July and September. I'll take you through each one of those.
And then these need approval.
And I need approval for those. Do you want to do them one by one or in total?
No, go ahead, do them all together.
Do them all together? Okay. The first one was in July, and if you recall, in the budget, we budgeted anticipated excess cost reimbursement in the amount of $1,055,000, and we initially put that in an account called anticipated surplus. We've now created an account, a new account called anticipated excess reimbursement, so it's just a reclassification from a placeholder account into a new account called excess cost reimbursement. The second one, number 2, was done in August, and we learned in August that the intern expense at Daniels Farm would come in lower by about $3,500, so we took that money back and we placed that in anticipated surplus. Also in August, we transferred $90,000 out of the assistant superintendent's salary and related benefits into anticipated surplus. And then in September, number 4, we looked at, we got all of the intern bills for all of the schools, and we were able to transfer $29,200 into anticipated surplus from the various school intern accounts. And finally, related to elementary classroom teachers, we budgeted $144, and we only have $142. So there was some savings of, what was it, $85,000, and that, I'm sorry, $127,000, and that was moved to, excuse me, $85,000 was the savings net, and we transferred that to one of the SPED accounts, para extra time, where we're already running higher than usual.
Just to clarify this assistant superintendent, that was Dr. McGrath's
Dr. McGrath.
salary offset by,
Yeah, Dr. McGrath's salary
yeah.
offset by Dave Irwin and
Dave
Tom
Irwin.
Colillo.
Exactly.
So it's net savings of $90,000.
That was this one right here. Yes, please. Thank you, Dr. Farron. Motion to approve all those transfers. Yes.
And Ward and
Dr. Farren. Any comments on any of these? Any questions on any of these? We really do appreciate, it's going to be a tight budget year. We know that. We're already seeing, the Finance Committee spent a lot of time, just talking about where we are with the special ed costs are already running very high. So we're just going to try to keep track of things as best we can, as early as we can.
Anytime we see, funds we don't need, we're going to move them immediately into anticipated surplus. Right now, I think that fund has a balance of about $135,000.
Good.
So hopefully that will grow, because we're going to need it.
We're going to need it. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Ward? Thank you. Good night, everyone. Oh, please be sure to vote next Tuesday.